Good Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Conversation Daily News. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. We, of course, have your news headlines coming up on this hump day. We have the truth of the day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich in today's Entertainment Spotlight. You've been part of my conversation with Lyn Barrett, the author of the book Crazy, Reclaiming Life from the Shadows of Traumatic Memory. Enjoy today's program. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Wednesday headlines. In national news, COVID case counts may be losing importance amid Omicron. The explosive increase in U.S. coronavirus case counts is raising alarm, but some experts believe the focus should instead be on COVID-19 hospital admissions, and those aren't climbing as fast. Dr. Anthony Fauci, for one, said Sunday on ABC that with many infections causing few or no symptoms, it is much more relevant to focus on hospitalizations as opposed to the total number of cases. Other experts argue that case counts still have value. As the super contagious Omicron variant rages across the U.S., new COVID-19 cases per day have more than tripled over the past 2 weeks, reaching a record-shattering average of 480,000. Schools, hospitals, and airlines are struggling as infected workers go into isolation. Meanwhile, hospital admissions averaged 14,800 per day last week, up 63% from the week before, but still short of the peak of 16,500 per day a year ago, when the vast majority of the U.S. was unvaccinated. Deaths have been stable over the past 2 weeks at an average of about 1,200 per day, well below the all-time high of 3,400 last January. Public health experts suspect that those numbers taken together reflect the vaccine's continued effectiveness at preventing serious illness, even against Omicron, as well as the possibility that the variant does not make most people as sick as earlier versions. Omicron accounted for 95% of new coronavirus infections in the U.S. last week, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported on Tuesday, in another indication of how astonishingly fast the variant has spread since it was first detected in South Africa in late November. Daily case counts and their ups and downs have been one of the most closely watched barometers during the outbreak and have been a reliable early warning sign of severe disease and death in previous coronavirus waves. But they have long been considered an imperfect measure, in part because they consist of primarily laboratory-confirmed cases of COVID-19, not the actual number of infections out there, which is almost certainly many times higher. The daily case counts are also subject to wild swings. The number of new cases recorded on Monday topped an unprecedented 1 million, a figure that may reflect cases that have been held up by reporting delays over the holiday weekend. The 7-day rolling average is considered more reliable. In more national news, Biden urges concern but not alarm as Omicron rises. President Joe Biden urged concern but not alarm on Tuesday as the U.S. sets new records for daily reported COVID-19 cases, and his administration struggled to ease concerns about testing shortages, school closures, and other disruptions caused by the surging Omicron variant. Speaking ahead of a meeting with his COVID-19 response team at the White House, Biden looked both to convey his administration's urgency toward addressing the new variant and to convince weary Americans that the current surge bears little resemblance to the onslaught of the pandemic or last year's deadly winter. The president emphasized that vaccines, booster shots, and therapeutic drugs have mitigated the danger for the overwhelming majority of Americans who are fully vaccinated. You can still get COVID, but it's highly unlikely, very unlikely, that you'll become seriously ill, Biden said of vaccinated people. In more national news, Manchin wary of changing Senate rules to advance voting rights. Senator Joe Manchin sounded a skeptical note on Tuesday about the prospects of easing the Senate's filibuster rules, raising doubts about whether he will provide a crucial support to the Democrats' renewed push to advance stalled voting legislation they say is needed to protect democracy. Manchin told reporters it was his absolute preference that Republicans support any changes, and he described acting on a purely partisan basis as a heavy lift. Still, he did not slam the door completely shut, saying he was exploring the options we have open. In business news, the Associated Press asked, will Elizabeth Holmes' conviction sober up Silicon Valley? The fraud conviction of former Theranos CEO Elizabeth Holmes could do more than just send a once-celebrated ex-billionaire to prison. In theory, it could also deliver a sobering message to a Silicon Valley culture that often gets lost in its own hubris and swagger. Will it? Don't hold your breath, says the Associated Press. For that change to happen, entrepreneurs would have to dial down their own hype, which could mean losing potential investors to louder startups with quieter qualms. And finally, in more business news, a record 4.5 million Americans quit their jobs in November. A record 4.5 million Americans workers quit their jobs in November, a sign of confidence and more evidence that the U.S. job market is bouncing back strongly from last year's coronavirus recession. The Labor Department also reported Tuesday that employers posted 10.6 million job openings in November, down from 11.1 million in October, but still high by historical standards. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's on time for the Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich. Mary Ellen, take it away.
Hi, this is Mary Ellen with your Truth of the Day. Remain relaxed and calm. Release the temptation to engage in conflict with those who have differing beliefs or opinions. Learn to see such conflicts as opportunities for you to let go of trying to convince others of your beliefs. Detach yourself from any struggle while you focus on staying centered and calm. Complete this exercise anytime you feel others are trying to unduly influence you. When you are able to reconnect with whomever you had a conflict with, find neutral ground to establish a productive friendship. If this is not a possibility, you may have to just let go. Today, avoid conflict by detaching from your emotional responses, and enjoy the day.
We have part of my conversation coming up with author Lyn Barrett in today's Entertainment Spotlight. You're listening to Conversation Daily News. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Entertainment Spotlight. Author Lyn Barrett, the author of Crazy, Reclaiming Life from the Shadows of Traumatic Memory, joined me on Conversations Live, the radio show, to talk about the release of the book. Here's a bit of our conversation.
Lyn, and I want to kind of begin with the release of the book. Of course, when your story was first pitched to me, I was very fascinated by it because I think, for one, this is such an important conversation, especially beginning a new year. I think for people who've dealt with any type of trauma in their lives, they're going to find, I think, some encouragement from this. What has it been like for you, Lyn, to be able to have shared your story with the world and to see the way people are responding to it?
Well, Cyrus, I'm 24 hours in. Yesterday, I said I gave birth to a new baby because yesterday was the publication date. So I'm still learning what it's like. It's been exciting, exhilarating, overwhelming, and a little bit frightening. It's not easy to bear yourself in this way to the world, and so I probably have some internal backlash about it, saying, "Oh no, you shouldn't be doing this," but I am doing it. So most of me wants to do this, and it is in many ways my attempt to make sense and meaning of my life, and also my hope that in making sense and meaning of my life that I might be able to help others make some sense and meaning of their lives, and also to give them some inspiration that the depth of this particular disorder is not the end of the story.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning in to this edition of Conversations Daily News. But we'll have you guys on tomorrow's more news, Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich, and of course your Entertainment Spotlight. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Daily News today. Let's make today amazing. Take care.